introduce our next presenter, Architect Karunakaran Raju, Director of Habitat Group. Architect Karunakaran has 3 decades of experience specializing in healthcare projects, innovation and technology for AEC Industry, a smart city planning consultancy. Architect Karunakaran graduated from Anna University, Chennai 1989 and holds a master's in project management from SPA University 1991, Delhi. Architect Karunakaran is a registered professional with Council of Architecture and pursuing research in smart cities. Let us now proceed to Architect Karunakaran's presentation.
Hi, I'm Karunakaran, architect. I have a master's in project management. I specialize in healthcare projects for the last 3 decades. My passion in technology for the industry is led me to work on this smart city planning consultancy works. And my topic is smart cities, the quality of life and the importance of architectural programming. Smart cities are an urban development initiative which has been initiated by the Government of India for the last 5 years, and it works on integrating institutional, social and infrastructure requirements for the improved sustainability and inclusivity. But there's a lot of hype in terms of technology, and there is a bit of a capital intensive approach to infrastructure development. Where actually, if you look at the human side of it, quality of life is taking the center stage, where a very people-centric, multi-dimensional concept is required for improving the live, work and leisure and the safety and the pain points of the people, I would say. And the role of architects have been practically invisible. So this presentation aims to bring out the importance of architectural programming at early stages of smart city planning in the socio-cultural context for achieving the values and goals of citizens for improved quality of life. So what's a smart city? The question keeps coming up for everyone. Is it all about technology and connected devices, like thousands of CCTVs on streets we find today? Not just that. It's about hundreds of experts like the infrastructure, environment, health and education, safety, including architects, engineers and planners have to work in collaboration to improve quality of life and any city. But I would say partly yes to digital, because the big data from all the devices has become an input for every professional as compared to 10 years ago, and it's cost effective too. For example, the police are using the footages, which is a commonplace today for any crime investigation. To putting it together, smart city government roles are now transforming into a humane exercise, empowering the general public in shaping the future of living, along with multiple private experts with an evidence-based approach. But ultimately, the proof is in improving the pain points like traffic and infrastructure we face in daily walks of life, and many more. So we'll see the context of government agencies, like the Ministry of Urban Development has embarked on a mission to improve 4,000 plus cities almost a decade ago. And Amrut was an urban transformation initiative
introduced 5 years ago for urban development of 500 cities. Now the smart city mission introduced a couple of years ago takes care of 100 cities over a million population. So the government has moved from a infrastructure and a expenditure based approach. Uh, they are moving towards convergence of all these government departments, including the Digital India and the Swachh Bharat mission. There are various stakeholders in the process, and Triple P is a framework for the government and the private agencies to work optimally. The agencies include many EPC and operations companies, the consultants, the experts, regulatory agencies outside the Ministry of Urban Development, like the um, Pollution Control Board and other boards. And there are investor companies like the World Bank and Japanese and American development banks. Ultimately, the invisible citizen has been empowered. Let me address them as the users to be an active player today in making his neighborhood, improving it, and thereby improving the entire city. The three pillars of smart city planning starts with quality of life and economic abilities and the sustainable growth of a city. Economy and job opportunities do bring people to a city, but sustainable growth establishes long-term objectives like a city like Pune, which happened to stay on top of the smart cities for many years. Many city councils are competing to attract IT and other industries through e-governance, triple P framework, a good credit rating, and land use policies. Example, Bangalore is a city of innovation, but still the quality of life is highly questionable. Similarly, in terms of sustainability, the resilience of any city is built on these pillars, especially the post-pandemic. Um, a city like Surat in 1994 bounced back to top of the ranking in smart cities, after having plague, one of the worst plague of the century, of decades. We do a survey of any neighborhood. The question we ask is, what do you want your city to be in the next 10 years? Well, everyone has a different answer. I want a lot of green parks and open areas. Someone says, I like the traffic to be much less or faster. I want less of taxes. I want better infrastructure. We want more social amenities, preserve the cultural heritage. Well, today we are moving towards co-creating the neighborhood and a city along with the users. The Pines Pavilion, New York, is a perfect example of a unique story of the neighborhood. The users have participated much ahead of making the building, and I would say the future of buildings is about designing for a community experience around the values of the people. Mercer is one of the respected private smart city ranking organization. The categories for rankings are listed here. Indian Smart City Mission has developed Ease of Living Index over the past 3 years. Various dimensions and the parameters could be contextually modified for a area-based development, and over the time period, we see the weightages given by Indian Ease of Living Index. on the left hand side highlighted. The major part of the weightage, 65% is given for the user perception and quality of life. The balance 1/3 is for the environmental and economy aspects. So it's evident cities are user centric, and 80% of our life is spent around the built spaces we know. This clearly establishes the need for early stage architectural intervention in the smart city context. Some of the impactful architecture of last 3 decades. If you look at architect Frank Gehry's Bilbao Museum, which has improved tourism of the city by 1000%, and the design became dominant part of asset creation for the entire city. And after that, every city mayor around the world has built another museum by the same architect. You see another building in Japan by architect Emilo, which is Across International Hall, has one of the early semblances of eco-architecture and biodiversity. Here the building becomes part of the ecosystem and widely followed now around the world. And then we have Neri Oxman from MIT Lab, who specializes in bio-inspired design. She had this unique pavilion built by 6,000 plus silkworms which were alive and weaving. And the weave is 5 times stronger than steel by volume. These are amazing innovations which can have to start with the right mix of experts and consultants in any city development. We come to the end of the part 1 of the presentation, which was about the brief understanding of smart cities and the pillars like quality of life. The part 2 now is about study made on city typologies. The Livability Index 2.0 of Indian Smart City Mission has guidelines for broadly 2 types of city development. The Pan City runs a few hundred square kilometers, and the area based development works on few hundreds of acres of part of the city. And also we have 2 more kinds in that. One is retrofit. For example, T Nagar has been recently completed as a ABD. And of course, the new city like Amaravati is yet to be seen in terms of application of all these principles of the mission. Traditionally, we have many ways of looking at a city, like capital city like Bhubaneswar, the industrial city like Jamshedpur, educational city like Manipal. There are many satellite cities, the new ones like the gift of Ahmedabad coming up. In terms of new cities, Dholera is one of the most spoken about city coming up in Gujarat and in an advanced stage. From 2010, digital technologies have made remarkable strides in city development, supporting the administrators for a better governance. So if you see the smart city ranking today, the top 5 cities like Bhubaneswar, Pune, Jaipur, Surat and Kochi, these are what we call a tier 2 metropolitans. They have made enormous efforts, which is a co-creation of administrators and the citizens, I would say. 6. The master city of UAE was planned by Norman Foster Architects. It was a start of sustainable urban development on the principles we discussed so far. Many European and American cities have set Vision 2030 plans, subsequently based on Sustainable Development Goals of the United Nations. And 2009, Singapore made a comprehensive smart city blueprint. And a few Asian countries like China, Japan, Malaysia, and Vietnam followed the ban. In 2010, Vienna city of Austria had completed some of the unique redevelopment execution on site, and they are regarded as one of the most resilient city. The details are seen in the next slides. For 2 millennia, Vienna was a suffering city ravaged by fire and multiple invasions by the Turks and Hitler. And 1945, they had the democracy in place. After 1965, when the UN headquarters was built in the city, a series of developments happened. They had a comprehensive climate protection plan in 2 decades ago, and the Mercer Index has chosen them as a global leader in quality of life for the 10th consecutive time. Some of the benefits of smart city initiatives: Vienna has already become one of the most future oriented innovation regions of Europe. Their goals for 2050 are very far sighted and set in 2010, like the 80% reduction in greenhouse gas emissions per capita and 50% of the energy consumption from the renewable sources. And in terms of mobility, they like to be 100% e-vehicles in the municipal boundaries by 2050. And as on date, 40% of non-motorized individual transport has been achieved by Vienna by the public transport, walking, cycling, and eco-mobility. The Vienna city had engaged architect Norman Foster for the urban development plan. One of the major impact on urban architecture comes in this idea. The land use plan would be organic, need-based, and area-based. So traditional satellite city like sectoral plans were not envisaged by the city planners. And then the mixed use structure has been advocated by them, which is about having the commercial and housing developments proportion to achieve balanced utilization of amenities and parking all times of the day. This becomes very relevant in post-COVID times. For example, if you look at our IT parks with millions of square foot utilized for 30% of the time, and now the occupancy could be less than 50%. That means the overall utilization falls below 20-25%. So the mixed use development is going to be one of the major recommendations for the future cities, and avoiding the sectoral plans. And then the buildings would achieve an energy reduction of 1% per year, which means certain standards of green buildings have to be met with. And all the city development would envisage 50% open spaces, which includes the waterways. The Vienna city has incredible landscape plans, which you can see here. From the pedestrian zones to street organizations, they have the plan for city roads and highways, waterways and rivers, and even the forest lands. Classic model for our landscape architects, and it's time to redefine our relationship with the nature like this. What we need in India is more of triple P, the private public participation policies, not just to plan but execute and maintain the green spaces and managing outcomes like the reduction of carbon footprint. This slide has a lot of statistics on the city, like the built up area and the proportion of roads and open spaces and a lot more. This completes our study of the city of Vienna. It's made by us for a consulting assignment, and we ran the data analytics on 10 cities, including 2 cities from India, and we found 10% variation in rankings due to criteria changing with each indexing system. For example, the United Nations has the Human Development Indicators, and the World Economic Forum has the Global Competitiveness Index, and there is Gini indexing for the disparity of income in a city. But essentially, cities are trying their best to attract high caliber people and the investing companies. And all this lead to innovations and the growth in economy. And the whole process eventually attract more people and more companies. There are statistical models available to compute our context for urban development. It's the most popular city near us, which has made significant digital improvements and has a comprehensive blueprint for the city. But still, UN put Singapore on 25th rank in the urban development due to issues on sustainability and human rights concern. From 1950, many capital cities were the new initiatives in our country, like the Bhubaneswar, Chandigarh, and the Gandhinagar. And from 1970, we have some of the satellite towns coming up around uh, Delhi and Mumbai, like the Gurugaon and the Navi Mumbai, which were based on the traditional planning methods. But a industrial city like Jamshedpur has 100 years of urban management experience, which can be a incredible input for new city planners. The new cities like the Mohali and Dhulera are coming up in a grandiose manner, and the completion standards are yet to be seen. Private townships like Mahindra at Chennai have made quite a success, but Lavasa near Pune has failed as on date. Many such private townships around half a lakh population would require uh, comprehensive architecture programming methodologies in becoming smarter towns. Rejuvenation of existing cities by Triple P is a major challenge ahead of us. So this slide completes our findings of studies. We've completed the part 2, which is the case study, and part 3 of the presentation is about finding solutions. So we normally have the layouts made by the city planners and the township realtors, and the roads are made for motorized transport from out of the house or every plot. And architects get to work on isolated plots and the buildings are disconnected. Can we have the pedestrian and non-motorized mobility based planning from early stages of an area based development? Can we connect them seamlessly with multimodal transport systems and terminals? And for example, sky bridges or any, but accommodating the bicycles and pedestrians having a smooth transfer. So we look forward to a outcome-oriented approach for enhanced quality of life, where urban architectural strategies can be embedded from an early stage and interface with many other influencing factors with the infrastructure and socio-economic needs of the community. We are moving on to part 3 on sustainability. So there are 17 sustainable development goals initiated by the United Nations as the Human Development Indicators in 2015. More than 180 countries have accepted to achieve the goals by 2030. These social goals translate into architecture and city planning values. UN ranking system gives India 130th rank out of 180 countries, makes us a medium development economy. Private statistical modeling like Numio gives 66th rank for India. So indices do have certain parity. To understand the context, China is at 85th rank, a high development economy, and US is at 17th rank, a very high development economy. The top ranks are occupied by some of the European countries like Norway and Switzerland. Architects and planners have a major role in goal number 11, apart from the highlighted goals 3, 4, 6, 7, and 9. Looking beyond green buildings, we find architectural programming as a powerful tool from an early stage of a city planning to achieve the SDG goals. We have formulated a methodology, take the built environment inputs based on sustainable development goals. The left-hand side indicates the performance needs for the physical and environmental infra development, and the right-hand side gives us the evidence-based facts for the social, institutional, and economic indicators. The midsection is our solution, which is the strategy and the outcomes based on the program iteration and evaluation. We've summarized our findings for user-centric approach to biodiversity, how to converge all the stakeholders and arrive at values of the community around any city development from the early stages. This takes us to a life cycle approach for sustainable quality of life. The circular economy promotes an ecosystem for every resource, recycling or reuse. Some of the countries like Netherlands are pioneers in this subject. Even China is doing well. Shared economy is well known to us in terms of car sharing or co-living or co-working spaces. But the architectural design requires a paradigm shift to work on a co-living environment. We've just completed the part 3, which is about the sustainable development goals of the United Nations, which is taken as a direction for the smart city planning. The human development indicators mentioned in the SDG are enhanced by improving the various pillars, factors, and parameters as discussed before. The SDG has been construed as an evidence, and the indicators are benchmarked at the township or a city level development. The users and the stakeholders, when I say the stakeholders, mean the service providers, companies, and the investors. They have an engagement through Triple P, the private public participation with the government, The iterative process of users and stakeholders with the government completes the benchmarking and alignment with the SDG. For example, in a particular zone, if you find the health or education outcomes are improving, which would mean the infra and governance program readiness is already there in place. Similarly, the role of architecture program would be discussed in further slides. Our methodology takes the perception data collected from the user needs and creates a programming matrix based on the values of the community. We know everyone is a user in a city. Either we live, work, or our needs could be as different as from a cultural identity to a digital or a lifestyle requirements, depending on who the user is, whether it's the general public or a workforce or even a tourist. But then the overall values of the community has to be matrixed for a cohesive quality of life. The expert users shown on the right hand side, the list could be uh, more than 100, who are part of the stakeholders, and they work in harmony with the general users to create the quality of life. We made this programming matrix based on four dimensions based survey with expert and general users. The factor A, infrastructure and industry, was given 25%. The factor B, human development indicators, given 50%. And factor C and D, the built environment and the program strategies were given 25%. So overall, when we completed the project scoring for a new township, it came around 60%. So this gives us a methodology for assessing any new project during early stages of planning. Of our interpretations here, the outcomes for a city program can be expressed in terms of 10 KPIs, the key performance indicators here. The United Nations Human Development Indicator terms India as 130th ranked medium development economy, whereas the World Bank says 160th rank due to income disparity. But then to reach a high development economy, we need to work on comprehensively on multiple factors. For example, the public utilities and services have to become more affordable. Let's say the schools and hospitals, if they are provided with a public land free of cost, then the pricing could come down. When the private entrepreneurs build and run these services, ultimately, it's the innovation which takes an economy or the quality of life to a higher standard. If you look at Detroit, the city which created the cars and modern manufacturing, has gone down the history. Well, we have more questions than the answers to arrive at a conclusion here. So my topic is about smart cities and the role of architecture, programming, and so we like to say architecture brings the art, science, technology, and environmental awareness. Built environment influences the way in which the built environment is planned, designed, made, used, and maintained. Robert Hirschberger is the innovator of the concept of architectural programming 3 decades ago. He broadly classifies into four parts. The human aspects are the function and psychosocial aspects of the built environment with the safety is important. The economic factors come as part of the environmental concerns, and the resources and the future are part of the technology and the systems and processes. Aesthetics is grouped along with the cultural aspects of uh, identity and historic importance. A well conceived program leads to high quality of design, and it brings the systematic evaluation of needs of a developer organization, which could be even the government, the users, and the surrounding community together. I'm summarizing the objectives of this presentation as we have to improve the quality of life during a smart city planning. Architectural programming becomes a powerful tool and a strategic input. And human development indicators from the United Nations is taken as a major influence for the entire process. But the scope is limited to interfacing architectural programming at the due diligence and the pre-planning stage and evolve a built environment program. The methodology leads to a conceptual model for the planning stages. But we like to confirm we're not creating expertise for infrastructure or transportation or information technology in this methodology. Some of the future continuity could be creating a digital platform for simulating the process in terms of building information modeling and the GIS as a collaboration tool. This methodology chart brings the process for multiple experts working on a smart city planning process. As you could see, the sustainable development goals are uh, becoming the fulcrum of the process. All the community values are continuously redefined and evaluated by the programming matrix. Improved quality of life is objectively known by the human development indicators ranking for India. And the built environment program is continuously fine tuned for the outcomes in the context of the smart city development goals. So, built environment matrix is developed based on extensive survey with expert and public users. The land use and the urban space planning factors are given weightages in this matrix. The building design factors are matrixed here, what we call the key performance indicators, like the green building norms and even the aesthetics and identity values are captured here. So architectural programming includes um, from the building design, interiors to the landscape architecture and urban level project. Uh, the life cycle of the buildings are studied. So the programming inputs continues from a planning design stage to the entire operations of the facility, and it connects all the stakeholders from the developer, consultant to the to even the funding and construction agencies and the facility operators, and of course the it's a user centric and outcome based approach. discuss the methodologies and the architectural programming metrics to create a framework for experts and public users to converge and work upon any city. But what is the purpose of a smart city development initiative? I mean, we have the key questions are we delivering an outcome uh, required by the public? And how do we build strategies and achieve a higher quality of living, which is expressed as a human development indicator by the United Nations? What is the built environment interface provided for the infrastructure planning so that all the experts are giving a holistic approach to the planning exercise? The simple solution is we need a framework and methodologies, which is an iterative process which continues through the life cycle in improving the quality of life. We discussed more on a area-based development approach, which could be a redevelopment or a new town planning. Some of the key values here. The public space is now considered as an asset, connecting to the nature and accessible. Instead of a sectoral land use planning, we need a mixed use development, and the right density makes public mobility affordable and lot faster, like the metro which is coming up. We could even go vertical, but that is a contentious solution. The gated communities and affordable housing with fully developed amenities with infrastructure is the way to go. A classic example of ABD in Chennai is the T Nagar development, which is quite vibrant with a lot of public pedestrians finding it convenient. And then one of the major factor is the energy performance and green buildings, and they probably would cost the same in future like conventional buildings. Since 80 to 90% of the time we live indoor air quality would be another key concern, and evolving specializations like the eco-architecture by Ken Yang could take us with more of green cover in the city. For example, the Chennai Corporation is making 1,000 Miyawaki forest parks in the city, which is commendable. So the sustainable technologies like the 3D printing, biopolymer, and the microbial carbon producing energy we've discussed. Buildings of the future would be developed by influencer professionals like the parametric architecture by Zaha Hadid, and the generative and evolutionary designers. It's favored by a lot of young professionals. I see the modular construction going to make a paradigm shift in the way we design, because entire building structure, the steel building and the interior MEP fit outs, 90% of the building is made in the factory, and only the assembly happens at site. 250,000 square feet buildings are being assembled in 100 days in India. So architecture will not just reflect the society, but truly shape our future of cities. Well, the key question is, do you like to live in a smart city?
So to summarize our presentation, first of all, we have to move away from a investment or a project-centric approach to a community-centric approach to the urban development. Secondly, what are we working for? We're working for a better quality of life. Is that all about beautiful looking buildings or a great infrastructure? Not just that. We need to work on the outcomes and continuously redefine the goals. And we need to follow the indicators and the metrics which are there in place. So every smart city development, we would suggest to have a vision plan in place. Let's say the government of India wanted to have in the next 5 years double the income of everyone in the country, for example. Similarly, when we do a city development, the professionals have to work towards making it, current human development indicator ranking for India is 134. We need to move towards less than 100, which makes us a high development country.
Thank you, Agile Karunakaran, for your presentation. And now we shall take a short break for our sponsor video.
This is Amit, and I am a proprietor of Metro Books. And our firm is a 12-year-old firm located in Delhi, and we have our head office in Delhi, and we have our 2 branch offices. One is in Pune and another one is in Chennai. So we are dealing in architecture and engineering books, and our core specialization is for engineering and architecture books. We have our specialization in architecture planning, interior design, animation, facility design planning, digital architecture, and construction project management, urban design, etc. So as you see, there are different books we have in our offices. So let me tell you, explain you the different books here. Like we have books for different publishers like Thames, Hudson, Lawrence King, etc., MIT Press. So you can see here in this rack that like all these books are very basic books, and most of the books are into various university syllabus, and also there are some civil titles are also there, like the Seavers one, like the passive and low energy. And you can again see here some very basic books required for all universities. And you can see here the books in this rack is for Wiley, and this is a US based publisher, very renowned publisher, and publishing books on various subjects, and very famous books they have published. So that, and we are directly procuring from this publisher. And in this rack you can see the Routledge publisher. This publisher is from UK, and again a very renowned publisher in the field of engineering and architecture subject. So they also publish on all the subjects like planning, urban design, interior design, fashion, animation, photography, etc. Like again you can see some books published by Indian publishers in this rack, and these are the very basic books published by different publishers. So we are also doing publishing for architecture books, and we deal in architecture books, and you can see these are the books by Design Media, and again this is a very famous publisher for design books and architecture books. And like I have told you that we are into the publishing field also, and we have published few titles on architecture subject, and some more titles also we are going to publish in next year. And this year also we are going to publish few titles, and we are still working on those titles to get it published within this year. Like one is for planning, and other one is for architecture, and one is for history of architecture. So these are the fields which we are planning this year. And you can see here the books based on design. This is again a very famous publisher for design books, and name of the publisher is Sandpoints. So that's this publisher is from China, and again you can see some more books for Link publishers, and that is again also a US publisher. Again you can see some book published by Actor Publisher, and you can see some archival books are also there. That's again a very Korean publisher. Again some books are for links for different on housing, digital architecture, on housing roofs, etc. And here you can see the books for European publishers. So all these books are for European publishers. So these are the books I have just shown you, and we are try to cover each and every subject relating to architecture, especially in publishing also. So that's all from my side. Thank you.